that there's a lot more to this life than what we know. They pronounce the body dead. They put it in a body bag, put it in the back of an ambulance. And this particular crew was a three-man crew with a rookie. And I was watching everything. I even saw the body. I didn't know it was me. Like, how could I have been watching my own death this whole time? And I had no idea, like no idea whatsoever. And he explained that that was my home, that I could go to my home. So we began this journey. That soul gets to keep going. We get to take that with us. And it's this butterfly effect, truly, but we are eternal beings. We had to leave our home and we had to go to a place where we could pretend to exist and then come back. And we get to take what we learned from that.
Welcome, everyone, to Our Sliver of Time. My name is Dave Sledge, and today we have Vinney Tolman, who literally woke up in a body bag after experiencing heaven on the other side of his near-death experience. We're going to have him share his story today, and then I have the opportunity to pick his brain about a whole bunch of follow-up questions as well. So thank you so much, Vinney, for coming on. And Vinney is also the author of The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back. And today we have the opportunity to pick his brain about a whole bunch of follow-up questions about his experience. So Vinney, thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you. And how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
What was the scenario that happens that led to this near-death experience in the first place?
So this was back in 2003. So it was quite a while ago. But back in 2003, I was an amateur bodybuilder and taking some new supplements. They were fairly new. They were less than a couple years old, and they had kind of taken America by storm. They were so popular, they were sold out everywhere. And so, me and my best friend, we went and bought some on the internet. And when it came, it had a different writing on the bottle. It didn't have English. It had a Thai script. So we get this bottle, we check it, we smell it. It looks and smells just like the normal American stuff. So we each took this little bottle cap. It's a little liquid bottle cap. Took our bottle cap worth of the supplement, and right away we both felt instantly ill. We knew something was different about this. What we didn't know is this particular formula was 20 times stronger than the American stuff. So it was pretty much the same as if we had taken 20 bottle caps of the normal American stuff. Instantly, we started to have that illness or kind of sickness come over you, nausea. And so we decided to go down to a local Dairy Queen that was only a couple of blocks away from his place, and figured, you know what, maybe if we get something to eat, we'll feel better. So we went down there. We barely made it through the door. I made it into the bathroom. I locked the door. I was feeling so nauseated. I felt like I was going to throw up. My buddy stumbled in and made it to the first booth, and he was able to collapse there and started to vomit. So the manager and some of the staff, they called emergency services. They got him hauled away. Meanwhile, I collapsed in the bathroom, and where I collapsed in the bathroom, I fell down on my back and I started to aspirate or to breathe in my own vomit. And so I suffocated right then and there. About an hour later, a customer kept asking to use the restroom, and it had been locked for a long time. He convinced the manager to open it up. When he opened it up, he saw me. He saw this dead body on the ground. It was cool to the touch. It wasn't no pulse, no signs of life. He did still call emergency services again, and they got the medics out there. The medics did some preliminary assessments, and they tried to resuscitate the body. They weren't able to do it. They pronounced the body dead. They put it in a body bag, put it in the back of an ambulance. And this particular crew was a three-man crew with a rookie. And this rookie was just really beating himself up in his own mind. He felt like he wanted to do something for this guy. And he just kept feeling like, I want to do something. I feel like we didn't do enough. And as they drove down the road to turn this body in to the medical examiner, he had this feeling. He just had a feeling, an intuitive feeling. He broke protocol. He opened the body bag. He started working on the body. He used a defib machine, which is a machine that shocks the heart and allows it to reactivate or reanimate in a way. And with that defib machine, nothing happened with the first round of shocks. Second round of shocks, they got one heartbeat. And then the third round of shocks, a steady, faint heartbeat. And when that happened, they happened to be a half a block from a hospital. So they were able to go and turn directly into a trauma center, hand the body off to be brought back online with the professionals at the hospital. It was really eerie because everything from my perspective was happening down below me, and I was watching everything. I even saw the body. I didn't know it was me. I didn't know it was me until they transferred the body into the hospital, and they had to strap it down because it was seizing. It was going into all sorts of seizures, and it was still vomiting. So as they were strapping it down, I felt someone strap me down. I literally felt my left arm get strapped down where I was. Up here, above everything, looking down, I felt my left arm get strapped down. I looked down to see what was going on with my left arm, and I was looking at the body's arm, like the arm of the body. And that's when I had this reckoning that everything that I've been watching was my own death. And that for me was just so surreal. I felt so stupid. Like, how could I have been watching my own death this whole time? And I had no idea, like no idea whatsoever. And I started to go through my mind and my thoughts and think of all the bad things I ever did. I started to actually see them. I started to see them from the perspective of anyone that I did bad to. And then I started to feel like maybe I shouldn't exist. Like, why would I exist if there's so much bad behind me? And that's when I started to feel some warmth. This warmth started in the middle of my back, and it warmed me over my shoulders and around to my front. And as it did, all of a sudden, very fast, I started to see all the good things that I ever did. Every good thing, from the smallest simple deed to the complex, hard work, service, and love that I had performed for others. But I got to see that there was a lot of good that I did, and quite a bit more than any of the bad that I did. I also got to see it from the perspective of those who I helped, and even times where I didn't think I was doing anything necessarily, I was helping people sometimes. So it was a very enlightening experience to even go through that moment. And as I did, I recognized that all of this warming energy was coming from behind me directionally. So I turned around to see why, all this warmth was coming from behind me. And I saw this man. He was all dressed in white. He had a long white beard, long white hair down to just past his shoulders. And I could just see in his eyes that he loved me, just truly loved me. And it didn't make sense to me because I didn't recognize him. But my first thought was, "You're God. You must be God." And he smiled, kind of chuckled a little, but without using his mouth, he just directly communicated to me, "No, son, I'm not God." And I was confused. I was like, "Well, who are you if you're not God?" And I'm raised Christian, so I thought, well, the only other option, if there is another option, is, are you Jesus? And so I asked him that. I had that thought, are you Jesus? And he said, "No, I'm not Jesus." He said, "My name's Drake. I'm here to be your guide, and I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go in the universe." And I was excited by that idea, the idea of going anywhere in the universe. being someone who my whole life I love looking at up at the stars and just staring at the stars for hours and hours. I still love doing that. And I thought, man, anywhere in the universe. And then I went back to that love that I was feeling coming off of this guy. And so I asked him, I said, well, where's this energy that's coming off of you? Where's this love coming from? I want to go wherever that is. If I can go there, that's where I want to go. And he explained that that was my home, that I could go to my home, and it wouldn't be hard. It would just be some growth, some understanding, and some traveling. And then I could go home to my original home. So I said, let's do it. Let's go. So we began this journey, this existential journey across the cosmos, across the dimensions. And he helped me understand that this journey wasn't going to be just from point A to point B. It was going to be from a worldly understanding to more of a eternal or heavenly understanding. And that I didn't have to fully accept everything that he was showing me and teaching me. I just had to be willing to think that it was possible. That's it. So I didn't have to, hook, line, and sinker, absorb or accept what he was teaching me. I just had to be willing to think, okay, I think that's possible. And as long as it was possible, then I was good to keep going with them. So right off the bat, I said, hey, Drake, you don't have to worry. I was raised Christian. I was in the act of cleaning up my life at the time when this all happened. I had gotten sober. I had stepped away from kind of a party lifestyle, and I felt like I was good. I was going to church. Felt like, hey, I can go directly to heaven. I've got all the secret information if you need it. And he looked at me with the most loving eyes, and he said, I love that you think you have everything, but there's just a little bit more that we need to understand, that we need to discuss. So I followed up with, well, okay, it's probably all about love. I know that's what, the most important thing. Everyone says it's love. And he said, yes, love is very important, but it's not only about love. It's actually first about authenticity. And that was weird to me. I'd never heard someone refer to authenticity being more important than love. But he explained to me that if we can't be authentic, we can't actually give real love to others. And if we can't be authentic, we can't receive love from others. So before we can love, either in giving or receiving, we have to first find out who we really are and accept that version of ourselves, accept who we are. So that was the big first step for me. And as soon as I could start realizing who I really am, my authentic self, then we got to start moving towards this heavenly realm, this home. And as we were going, he then explained that I needed to understand, why I was here on Earth. That Earth itself is not some kind of courtroom. It's a classroom. And it's here for us to learn, to create, to build relationships, and to really master the power of creation, which, he taught me later what that was. And as we get better at that, we're able to take that with us, but we can't take anything else from this life with us. We can take our relationships and what we learn to create. We get to take that with us. So that led me to the third thing that I had to learn from him, and that was love. And he expressly said, love everyone. And I said, hey, you've got no problems there. I love everybody. And, he went on to teach me a lot more. And we could, talk for quite a while about just the other things that he taught me. But what was really amazing is as I was making it through all of this, one principle that really stuck out to me was prejudice. And he said that I needed to release all prejudice. And I said, that's not a problem. I've got two Korean sisters. So racism's not a problem for me. I love all races. And he said, well, that's great, but how do you feel about prejudiced people? And I opened up. I said, well, let me tell you about prejudiced people. They're not good. They're bad people. They're ignorant. They don't understand truth. They don't understand principles and values of humanity. And he showed me in almost like in effigy, he showed me being on the no prejudice side of things and joining the prejudice side of existence because I hated prejudiced people. And that for me to be truly removing all prejudice, I couldn't even have any anger or hatred towards prejudiced people. That was a big move for me. I didn't realize that I had that my whole life, that I did have prejudice towards prejudiced people. So, we continued our progress. We ended up getting to this place. Now, meanwhile, my body, it was brain dead in a coma. Yeah, they brought my heart back, but a lot of the rest of the body was not back yet. So I was on, full life support. And through that process, I was 3 days in a coma. And during those 3 days, I was making my way towards heaven. And as we were, on our journey, I actually made it to the heavenly realm. And it is a very real place. It's not just a hypothetical. It's a very real place. It looks like a more perfect earth, but it doesn't have some of the problems we have on earth. In fact, it doesn't have any of the problems that we have here on earth. It is a perfect space. There's no outside light there, though. So there's no outside sun. Everything there contains light. So the place itself emits light. Everything there emits light. Even the grass that I touched down and felt and plugged into and felt more love from a single blade of grass than I felt from all the people in my whole life. And I was loved, but this love coming from this place is just so far above any love that I'd ever seen in this life. And I could feel the divine consciousness behind the entire place. I could feel it behind the flowers and the trees and the water. And as I'm experiencing all this just majesty and life-changing love being constantly poured upon me as I'm experiencing heaven, I noticed this building. I noticed it was, to me, it looked like a university of sorts in heaven where we can go and learn anything. But we get to learn the actual truth, not some other person's truth, but the actual truth. And that truth is very different than anything we learn on earth. Because on earth, we only learn, his story or history or her story. We don't get to actually learn truth. We get to learn who tells the stories. That's what we get to learn. And I was just enthralled by that. I was excited by that. I wanted to go in this building. And that's when Drake put his arm around me. And he says, Vinny, this is going to be really hard, but it's going to be worth it. And he brought me in really tight for a hug. And when he brought me in for this hug, it felt like we came together and became like a single force force of light, of love. And it felt almost like there was an explosion of energy around us as he hugged me. And I've never felt ever anything like that before.
Sorry to interrupt, but This reminds me a bit of, other people have talked about like soul mergers or something like this. Is
Yes.
maybe sounds like what it
Yes,
was.
I think so. I felt as if I was getting that soul merging just from the grass when I touched it. Like I felt it come together with me. And I think that was more of a preparation for the hug that Drake was going to give me. But in that hug, I felt there was more energy coming out of the two of us than 100 suns, 100 of our sons. Like it felt so much energy coming out of that hug. And as that hug was starting to end and we were pulling apart, I actually heard my brother saying a prayer over my body in the hospital. And I heard him command me to come back to my body. I heard him command me to be made whole and to be healed. And I felt as if my agency was removed off of me. I felt forced to go back to my body. There had to be some part of me that allowed that or agreed to it, because everything in this life is according to our choice. But I felt like my choice was removed. I didn't want to go back. And I ended up waking up in my body at 1:11 in the morning after 3 days brain dead in the hospital. So I did wake up. They called me the miracle boy for a while. They did a battery of tests for 6 hours. They did tests, and after 6 hours of tests, they finally gave me the green light that I could check myself out of the hospital. And that was really hard on me. I didn't remember my experience yet. Right when I first woke up, I didn't remember it at all. It wasn't until the following night my sister took me to dinner and she asked me, she said, Vinny, she's like, did you experience something while you were on the other side? Because you were dead. Everybody told me you were dead. And I went to form the words no. And I tried to say the words no and have them come out of my mouth. But what came out of my mouth was, yes, I saw this man. His name is Drake. He's my guide. He took me over all over heaven. He showed, I started expressing things. And as I did, I just started weeping. And I wept like I've never cried before in this life. I truly wept like a child. And here I am, this tough guy man, and I'm weeping in this restaurant. I felt silly. And I was struggling for a while to even know if this memory was real or if it wasn't. I had some mental health professionals tell me that it wasn't real and that it was just a delusion. Only to come to find out later, 6 months later, I was in Wyoming. I was watching a presentation about the history of this little town in Wyoming, and I saw Drake's picture come up on the screen. When I saw that, I was done. I was done again. I started crying again. I'm not a crier. Um, I just started weeping because now what I saw was real. It was a real person, someone I never knew. I never heard his name before. But here's what was weird: it did say that his name was Charles, not Drake. So I recognized his last name, and he had the same last name as my grandmother. So I went to her and I asked her, I said, Grandmother, tell me about this Charles guy, this Charles Kazare. And her exact response was, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous. And again, I lost it again. So, like, for the third time, I just lost it. I started weeping again because now, again, to a whole nother level, this is even to the name itself. His middle name is what only his family knew him by, his family and really close friends. Everybody else knew him as Charles. So the fact that he was even referring to himself as Drake was another confirmation for me. So I've, since then have many confirmations of my experience.
Do you think this was maybe intentional, the fact that you saw this photo of Drake afterwards, or coincidence or
A
divine?
100%, 100% on purpose. I feel it was synchronicity. I feel that if I didn't see it there, I would have ended up finding out some other way. And it was very odd how I ended up in that little town in Wyoming. I wasn't going to be there, but I met a girl. I was engaged to her, and she told me, she was like, "You're going to this family reunion and you're going to spend some time with your family, or we're not going to get married." And so I was like, "Okay, we'll go. We'll go." She probably didn't give me that kind of an ultimatum, but it was pretty much like that. She was like, "To make me happy, you're going to go to this reunion." And I went to the reunion, and that's where I saw this. So I feel even to her being so determined to make sure I was there too. And not just that, it was a weird roll of circumstances, even how I got from the reunion to watch this little presentation on the history of the town. It was just so many factors there. And then since then, I've had hundreds of experiences, literally hundreds, maybe close to 1,000 in experiences where I've listened to what intuition has told me to do, and I've seen it pay off tenfold, hundreds of times, maybe even 1,000 times now.
It's almost as if, although there's manifestation with the like energy exchange, like directed in a certain area, but then there's also certain things that you just can't plan for, it seems.
Yeah, there
Like
isn't.
like they're made to
Yeah,
happen.
they are. It's destiny. I think synchronicity, destiny, you know, coincidence, I don't like that word, but yet the origin of coincidence is cooperative incidence. That means it's still working together, right? So even coincidence by origin means cooperative incidence. So yeah, no matter what we call it, I feel there was divine orchestration in it. No question. No question. And I had another experience with a mental health professional where I delivered a personal message to him, that also confirmed, strongly confirmed, that what happened to me was some form of reality. I couldn't quite understand how, but it was. And even he said, "Hey, this somehow this is real for you." He says, but the mental health field does not have answers for this, at least at the time. What's great though is physics and neurology are coming together and working somewhat with NLP and understanding our brain and how some of this stuff can happen, and how um, if energy can never be destroyed, that means the energy that's keeping your body alive doesn't ever get destroyed when you die. And I would call that your soul. That soul gets to keep going, whether you believe it or not. It does. And that explains a lot of near-death experiencers. There's just thousands and thousands, almost I would say close to 100,000 experiencers now across the world. And we have our own little convention every year called the IANS Conference, the International Association of Near-Death Studies. And we've got doctors there, we've got mental health professionals, we've got all sorts of people that study these experiences. And what you find is a distinct synchronicity across all of them, that there is set patterns that you watch in all of them. And mine, I feel it's precious and special to me. I feel that it happened to me so I could share it with my family and share it for those who are ready for it. But I don't ever try to say that my experience is going to be your experience or anyone else's. I just share it for the upliftment of understanding that there's a lot more to this life than what we know. Unfortunately, we come here without any training manuals, so we don't know necessarily why we're here. We kind of have to figure that out once we're here. And I feel like a lot of these near-death experiencers, that's why we're all talking about it, is we are all the PR campaign for heaven. We are. It's a real place.
You've previously described the pearly gates, if you will. You said they are not what people think it is, that it's some sort of well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Could you describe
Yeah.
what the
So
pearly
it's
gates are?
it's it's funny. I was sharing my experience for years, and I would talk about these pearls or these orbs on the outside of heaven, and they work and function as a kind of a rehabilitation for our soul, so that we can shed the trauma that we pick up while we're in earth, or on earth. And so what happens is we cannot get into heaven with that trauma on us. So we have to cleanse ourselves of it. And what these pearly gates do is we enter these pearls, we cleanse ourselves of that. And once we're done, boom, we can get into our heavenly realm at whatever level we're ready to. And that's what's great is heaven is an interactive experience and place, and destination. If we are ready for a little bit of it, we can have a little bit of it. If we're ready for a lot of it, we can have a lot of it. It's us who are preventing ourselves from getting too much, not that place. So again, the pearly gate, I didn't call it the pearly gate, but I was telling my friends for years about this, and finally one of them goes, "Hey, that's the pearly gate." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess it would be the pearly." But they weren't little pearls, they're big spheres. They looked like pearls as you got closer and closer, but you realized they were huge and they're full of lots of souls. Each one of them had souls, and they each one had kind of a distinct frequency, of trauma that people needed to release. And I talk about my book, these two particular individuals that were having a very hard time forgiving their children of something that happened to them in their older age. And once they did, though, they were instantly escorted into heaven by angels, by real angels. And yes, they are real. In fact, more people believe in angels than believe in near-death experiences. So, which is kind of odd, at least in the United States. But yes, angels are very real as well, and that was part of the experience, that I got to see.
So it's almost like a purification process. Maybe
It
this
is,
has
yeah.
maybe this has to do with you said that in order to get back home, you have to raise your vibration to match the frequency. I don't want to go, I
Hmm.
have two questions in one here, okay? So bear with me. So do you have to match the frequency of the realm that you're wishing to enter?
Yes,
Would be my
but
first
the
question.
but what happens is, as long as you're willing to open yourself up for the learning or the understanding, you'll eventually get there, because time doesn't exist there. It just doesn't. You could have told me I was in heaven for 3 years, and I would say, okay, I could believe that. It felt like a lot longer than 3 days, but at the same time, you could have said it was 3 hours, and I wouldn't. There was no frame of reference because their time doesn't exist. That's what was weird is when I came back, I felt an orchestrated slip of energy putting me back in my time. Like if they made a mistake, I could end up 1,000 years later or 1,000 years earlier. That's what it felt like they were trying to slip me in between the right pages of the book. Like time exists here but not there, because there everything's happening all at once, all of it. The whole experience is happening now. There's only now there. There's not before or after. It's just all now.
If you have to raise your vibration to go home, but that's where you
Mm-hmm.
came from, do you think we had to deliberately lower our vibration or frequency to come here in the first place?
100% we did. Yeah, 100% we did. We had to actually forget who we were. And in religion they call that the veil of forgetfulness, or the veil between heaven and earth. um we had to pass through that veil just to even get to earth and stay there, because if we could even remember who we really were or really are, we would just want to go back right away. We wouldn't want to play around or mess around on earth. So we couldn't even remember who we really are.
As much as I would like to know all of that information right now and all the time, I could see how maybe it's like logistically would kind of interfere, with what we're doing here.
Yeah, the way it feels like to me, and I joke around about Disneyland all the time, right? It's kind of like if you were raised in Disneyland, and all of a sudden they said, okay, now you got to go to now you got to go to high school for the rest of your life. You're like, what? No, life is Disneyland. So they'd have to make you forget about your upbringing in the park, right? And so that you could go to high school and get the education you needed. It's kind of a bad example, but that's the way it seems to me, that there we had it so much better. But here's why we had to leave, because there, everything that the creator wanted, we wanted. We had no separate distinction from the creator as far as choices, as far as desires. So we knew for us to grow and build our own choices and our own desires, we had to leave our home, and we had to go to a place where we could pretend to exist and make choices and mistakes and then come back, and we get to take what we learned from that. So that's the reason, is we wanted that growth, just like kids in our world now. They don't, a lot of them won't grow up till they move away from home. It just won't, right? And there's a few exceptions, of course, so nobody take any offense. If you're living at home and you're doing good, awesome. But a lot of people, they don't grow up until they leave home, and that's what it is for us too. Same thing.
You had previously described heaven as almost like a sun and a planet combined, whereas everything was emanating with light. There was no outside source of light.
Hmm.
So, in your opinion, would this be like kind of almost non-physical, but somehow you have the ability to still create there? Is that kind of what it was?
Yeah, I would say it is physical, but at such a higher dimension that it doesn't have some of the restrictions we have here in our physical realm. But yeah, it's almost like as if there's a life or a whole system on a sun, and that's what it felt like. It felt like that.
You had once described it as there is not one heaven, but potentially multiple, and that you you get the one that you need.
Yep.
What exactly do you mean by this? Is it kind of like based on where the state of your soul is at? That's where it's going to kind of like magnetically attract you to, for lack of a better word?
So it's just like university. When you first go to university, you go and get your general eds done. You make sure you're serious about school. That's why you got to get your generals done first, right? Then you start learning about your specialties. Then you graduate with an associate's or a bachelor's in some type of specialty. Then in your professionals, your doctorates, a lot of your other degrees, you've got to go to a whole nother level of specialty, right? And heaven is like that, but it's not without all the homework. It's You're getting there to what level you're ready, but we are eternal beings. So there's no glass ceiling. There's no, oh, once you get here, we're all going to just chill on a cloud and, try to help others. It's not like that. We do have a continual progress even there. The same type of progress we have here, but even to a greater amount there. So wherever you can slot into heaven, you get to grow. You get to keep growing if you want to. If you don't want to grow though, and you want to spend an eternity chilling and loving your family and spending time with your kids, especially if you lost your kids in this life in a tragic way or a health problem, you get to experience that if you want to. So you get to have the version of heaven that you need and that will serve your soul the best. And here's what's also really beautiful is you get to have souls with you that help build that cycle. So if you really love someone, you're able to bring a piece of their consciousness into your sphere or your existence in heaven so that you have your loved ones around you, including animals. I saw that people had like generations of dogs around them, some of them, but it wasn't that they're running around everywhere like dogs on Earth. A lot of those dogs were actually very high intelligences. Same with the cats, the horses. I could experience people having around them as well, and they were extremely high intelligence in that space. So every aspect of life has a progress to it, and heaven is the place where we go next um, for that progress.
Do you believe that we've lived physical lives in the past and that we will at some point after this life?
I'll say it this way. This way I can keep everybody happy. Um, For me to say there's no such thing as past lives, I would have to assume that I was smarter and greater than God. But to also say that's that's all there is past lives, same thing. What I know for a fact is if we need more when we get done with this life, there's more ways to learn. And there's a lot of beautiful experiences of people on this planet that have even memories of other times and places that are, mysterious. But I'll tell you, if we need more, we get to have more. It's all about choice. We're not forced into anything. It's not like some of the belief systems and religions where they say you do this, you become a dog, or you do this, you become a cockroach. It's not like that. It's all about, growth and progress and connection to the divine and magnifying that divinity within you. And if you can do that in one life, bam, that's all you need. But I think for a lot of people, that's not enough for them. So they may have more. But I don't prescribe to say it's one or the other for everybody. I do know that there's been people that only needed one. But I also know that there's others that have had a lot. People can't say it's for sure one way or another. They can't unless they're God.
Well, you know what I like about that is that's like a realistic approach to it. It's
Yeah.
not trying to sit here and say I know for sure. And that's what I really like about you and the story you tell. You're not going to sit here and say I definitely know for sure this, because now that's we have to assume that you're all knowing, like that you're literally the person that created this whole system, right?
I'll be the first one to tell you, don't believe that. I'm not
Yeah.
all knowing, but I will tell you this. The thing I know unequivocally is how much God loves every single one of us. Every single one of you, God loves distinctly, precisely. And it's our duty to connect to that love while we're here. And if we can, the level of existence that you can have when you can connect to that love is far greater than your wildest imagination.
You have to be like willing to be open to the ideas and like
Yes.
this. It
That's the hidden 11th principle right there. Is I just had to be willing to open myself up to believe it was possible. I didn't need to accept it hook, line, and sinker what he was teaching me. I just had to believe it was possible. That was it. And that's what all of heaven's about is you don't need to force feed yourself anything there. It's all about that choice. And if you're willing to accept it's possible, then that opens your expansion or your consciousness to more information.
I find it very interesting that when people have life reviews, or in your case, it was kind of a download of information. It seems like maybe,
Yeah, it was very fast for me. Yeah.
yeah, it seems to be a common theme where it's like that seems to be a method of communication where it's like a, compressed zip file or some download of information
Yep.
instantaneously. But my question to you, Vinny, is why, in your opinion, I don't want you to feel like you have to speculate too much, but what you were shown was all the bad that you did, followed by all the good that you did. And I'm wondering why this is so consistent. Like, is this maybe part of the purpose we're here? Are we here to begin to learn innately what is right and what is wrong, in your opinion?
So I actually asked Drake that. I had a question with him on that. Like, why did you show me all the bad things? Maybe I would have been okay if you showed me all the good things I did first. And the way he showed it to me is he said, before a ball can bounce up, it has to drop and hit the floor. And there's some type of energy understanding of that. It made sense to me. Like, yeah, that's true. Like it would have to hit the floor first and then bounce up. It's almost like it had to peel away with what I believed was real and then see that there's this whole other reality I was not aware of. Even doing some good stuff that I didn't even know was good, like helping people, saying good things, compliments. You'd be surprised, by the way. A single compliment changes someone's day, then they compliment someone, then they compliment someone. And it's this butterfly effect truly. So, simple verbal love, which is compliments, goes a long way. And you can imagine a hug or serving someone is also like that. Yeah.
It could be the little things that you don't even acknowledge. You have no
Yep.
idea
It is.
how
It's the little
positively or
things. Yep.
yeah.
And it's the same on the flip side too. You go and you dissect a road rage incidents. It wasn't the cutting off or the speeding or the mistreatment. It was all the things that led up to that. And someone has a push point, right? But a simple kind gesture can reset that cup. It can empty their cup and let it start filling with some love. So we have an awesome opportunity every single day to share love, or share ignorance, or share hatred. It's our choice.
You had said that the light and the love kind of like healed you like a purification process, if you will. My question to you is, was there any effects lingering? I mean, this must have been a traumatic experience. Let's just be honest. Like, I don't know if it was or not, but it seemed.
Very much so. Yeah, it was very traumatic. It happened in January. I was found dead on January 18th. I woke up from my coma on January 21st, and it was extremely traumatic. I wanted to go back. I thought about it every minute of every day until I met my fiance, until I met my wife of 21 years now. Until I met Andrea, I didn't want to live. In fact, back then we had a different form of the internet than we have now. I had Ask Jeeves. That was my search engine back then. So I searched what jobs they would not sell you life insurance for. That means that there's a good chance you're going to die. And I took the top 5 of those jobs. The first most dangerous one, underwater welder, automatically disqualified. I had to be in the Navy pretty much for that one. But crab fisherman was one, and there was a couple of others I looked into. I was pursuing that when I met my wife, and as soon as I met her, everything changed, everything, and it was very weird. It was beautiful, but I could see heaven. Literally, I could see heaven in her eyes. And that sounds cheesy and stuff, but it's real. Like I did. When I first saw her face, she looked nothing like of any woman I had ever dated before. She had this light coming from her that didn't make any sense whatsoever. Just this childlike innocence, and I was sold. I was like, this is different. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted to stick around a little bit longer and see what was going to happen. And sure enough, we ended up getting married only a couple months after that.
That's honestly beautiful, man. I'm very happy for you, and I'm happy for the both of you. So, um, yeah, that's incredible. Crab fishing is gnarly. I've seen some footage
Yes.
of it.
when
That
they say
doesn't look like
deadliest
fun.
catch, when they say deadliest catch, that's real. There's a lot of life insurances you can't get if you're a crab fisherman, because or they just won't honor it while you're on the boat. Outside the boat, they'll honor the life insurances, but it's pretty crazy. It's hairy. A little slip of the boot, and you're in the ocean. You're gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a job for me, but I'm
To
really
to
glad that.
me, to me, that was an easy way to get back home. That was an easy way for me, and I was legitimately gonna do it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad things turned out the way they did, really. That's
Me too. Me
it's
too.
a beautiful ending to it. So I'm really happy for you guys, and that's awesome, man. Um,
When I'm on an airplane, though, I'm probably one of the only guys that never freaks out about really bad turbulence. I just think, oh, cool, this might be it. Here we go.
oh, bro, I'm the opposite. Dude, one time we were taking off, and like when you're, first hitting that kind of dip when you first take off,
Yeah.
I heard this like scratching noise on the back of the plane, and I was like convinced that the back of the plane scraped the concrete or something. So I thought we were going down for like the first hour, you know? I don't like that. I don't like turbulence. I am all set on that. Actually, you know what it is too? The landings. I don't like when you see the landing strip, but you know you still haven't touched down yet, and then
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, "Wait a minute. We have to be running out of landing strip by now." And so I'm always wondering like, do they have time to stop?
Yeah. And it boils down to just trust. Do you trust the pilot? Do you trust the plane? Yeah.
Usually it's most likely it's going to work out fine. Vinny, if you could ask one question to the person watching this video right now, what would it be?
What makes you happy? Find out what makes you happy and do it. Too many of us, we everything we do all day doesn't make us happy. So find out what truly brings you joy in the deepest aspects of your heart and figure out a way to bring that joy into your daily life. That's what I would say.
So basically go skateboarding all the time.
Sweet. Yeah. Surfing, skateboarding, or, helping old people or whatever works with you, whatever works with your heart, figure it out and make sure you're getting regular doses of that joy. Just that's how we connect to the creator anyway, is when we're feeling joy, we get a stronger presence of the creator in us than when we're in the enslavement of our life.
Do you have any advice for people that might have a fear of death or just existential questions in the first place?
Well, here's the funny thing. For thousands of years, we've been listening to people talk about heaven who have never been there. And now for the more recent years, we have hundreds of thousands of people who have been there. So to me, we have a new data point. We have a new way of understanding. And I'm not saying that any one case is the case. I am a firm believer that you learn from the whole. You learn from all of the stories combined, and that's where you get to see the creator. That's where you get to see the heaven. Yeah. So yeah, find those answers where you can. If religion gives you those answers, find it there. But if they don't, there's other places. And religion is not something that has to happen in a church. To me, the greatest temple in the universe is these two temples right here. And what you can do in here is greater than anything you can do out there. Allow yourself happiness here first.
Vinny, if people want to see more of your stuff or check out your book, I'm going to put the links to your stuff in the description below, but do you mind telling them where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a nonprofit that I run all of my stuff through. It's livinggodslight.com. Again, livinggodslight.com. They can find everything, my book there. They can do, they can actually book a coaching session with me. That is my 9 to 5. I'm actually a life coach and I help people heal. I help people move beyond their trauma. To me, I feel like we don't need to wait for one of those pearls. We can release that trauma now. And so I try to help people do that now. So it's an easier process one day when they get to go.
Vinny, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. And I appreciate your time. You have an incredible story, and I like all the insights that you've given. And it's, like I said to you earlier, some of this is for the audience, some of it is for me. I genuinely enjoy this as well. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. It's been awesome to be on here. I love it when I can talk about this experience. I feel like it gets in the right ears at the right time.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's an incredible story, and you're an incredible person. So, thanks again, and to everyone watching, thank you so much for your sliver of time. This has been ours. Vinny, thanks again, and to everyone at home, peace out.
Thanks, everyone. I even had one interviewer call me Benny, like with a B,
Oh yeah.
and he even put up someone else's photo on the video, and I didn't tell him. I was just like, cool, whatever.
No shit. That's
So there's
actually
one there's one video out there that it's not me. It's someone else. I don't know who it is, but it's my name. But yeah, it's funny.
Honestly,
So
that's actually hilarious, especially that you didn't tell him. You're like, you know what? He'll one day he'll realize like a year from now,
yeah,
you know?
hopefully the real guy, because that had to have been somebody he interviewed.
Oh yeah,
Hopefully the
maybe.
real guy he interviewed that saw it and was like, "Hey, bro, why did you put my face on Vinny's video?"
Oh, that's so funny, dude. Holy shit. Well, I won't make that mistake, I could assure you.
No, you're good. You're good. I put no apprehension, no expectation, and I'm always happy that way. So I love being that way.
All right, you know what? I'm just gonna plug your book and then edit it in because I'm botching the hell out of this. I
You're
hate the
good.
intro, bro. I'm not a script reader, you know?
Yeah. It's
I
because you're
gotta talk.
authentic. That's cool though, man. That's cool.
Okay. Vinny, if you could ask one question to the person watching this video right now, what would it be? Oh shit, you're frozen. I don't know if you could hear me, but you froze up, dude. Hold on, hold on.
You froze there. So ask me
Oh,
the two questions one more time. Sorry.
yeah,
I didn't
you're back.
I didn't hear the question. Yeah.
I enjoy this so much. Like it's like, oh, it's for the audience and stuff, but like it's for me too, you know. Um,
That's your passion, man. If it's your passion, it's your destiny. You're living your destiny doing this.
hell yeah. Um, no pun intended when I said hell yeah. I guess maybe that was a bad joke, not intended.
Heaven, yeah.
There you go. So